welcome back to Soft Girl, Soft Life. And this is the podcast where we dive deep into the transformative power of doing your thing in the world from a nurtured place where you feel empowered to show up as your full self. I'm your host, Kleidi Jeen, and you can go ahead and grab a seat, get a snack, and get this tea. Now, tell me if this is you. You can't escape having to suck it up, put on your armor, and toughen up to get through the day. Armor on at all times, like every time you're at the store, at work, around your family, like all the time. And it's exhausting. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah, I know all about it. And I thought it sounded familiar to you. So you're not new to this, you are true to this, and you are tired of it, right? But let me ask you this. In your quest to let go of being strong on repeat, have you overlooked some ways you can allow in some softness? In today's episode, we're going to flip the script. Always being strong is hard, okay? It's hard, like for real. Look, just like no more, right? But we can face those challenges, but from a nurtured place, right? So we can be more connected to ourselves to face those challenges. And today I'm sharing 3 ways to do just that. So, okay, if you're ready to infuse your life with a little more softness, trust, you do not want to miss this episode. So let's talk about being strong. What is being strong? Being strong is about pushing through, just pushing through no matter what. Like not letting your emotions bring you up or down, not letting difficult and challenging experiences affect you at all. Really, it's about not letting your humanity get to you and change you from like that slightly neutral, slightly happy, right? Being strong all actually is an attempt to experience life in a straight line. Like when what life really is hula hoops and roller coasters, is ups and downs. So what causes us to be like this? Well, the short answer is that this is how we're acculturated from a young age. We're taught through every level of education, community life, and media that this is how we're supposed to be. This is the way to be strong. And if you just keep trucking on that straight line, right, somewhere at the end of it, you'll deserve to feel happiness. But the thing is, that line just never ends. So let's get into some of the specific ways that feeling we have no other choice but to be strong and tough it out shows up in our lives, and how we can start to ease our way out of this toughening up all the time. So how we can make our lives softer and sustain that softness while we're meeting the real challenges face to face on the daily. Okay? So the first place I want to go is this. We are often really strong because we desperately desire an outcome. And what that's about is when we want something so badly because we're convinced, whether it's just because it feels oh so right, or we convince ourselves that our happiness will only come once we get this exact thing, but we're convinced that we have to achieve or get this thing and it has to look exactly like this or exactly like that. Like for example, I have to take this trip to the Greek islands because I will be so happy and so fulfilled, and I will have just great Instagram pictures and so on. And so with that setup, if you can only make it to, say, South Padre Island because of the budget you're working with, that desperation for the other goal makes you not appreciate the fact that you can go to South Padre Island, for example. And that's in Texas, if you don't know where that is. So you feel you have to toughen up and do whatever it takes to get to the Greek island, right? And that, even though it's something that's supposed to please you, it starts to not feel nurturing and not joyful and not aligned and not in flow at all. So in this situation, how do you access softness? You do what I call set and release, actually. So what you do is you set your vision, you get a clear vision of what you want to do, and you create a plan of action, and you take those intentional action steps towards making that plan happen. And what often happens when we visualize, when we plan, we execute like this, what often happens is that things don't actually manifest exactly as we visualized when we first set out to do the thing, right? So that's where the release part comes in, of set and release. So you have to release your attachment to the outcome, to the expectation, because those so many parts of our culture, our upbringing, like to cover this up and tiptoe around this fact that I'm about to say and sweep it under the rug. We can't control the future. No matter how much empowerment and control you think you have, no matter how many plans you set, no matter if you do all the things they say you're supposed to do to get X and Y and Z, we have zero. Yes, zero control over outcomes. So trusting in that fact can actually take a lot of weight off your shoulders. You might even right now be taking a sigh of relief knowing that you don't have to do all this toughening and hardening and pushing to make something happen. You can set your goal, take your actions, make your plan, take your actions, and release it. Take your action steps with curiosity, more as an experiment, a dance with life, and trust in yourself and trust in the mystery, trust in the unknown, and let it go and welcome in whatever comes of it. Okay? So, the next way I want to bring up how being strong shows up in our lives is through survival, like having no other choice but to be strong. And this is about the bills needing to be paid, having the roof over our heads, having food to eat. So we have to toughen up to get through whatever it is we need to get through to make this happen. Okay? But what often happens in the process is that we tend to almost voluntarily give up as much of our agency as possible, as much of our power and our freedom as possible. The line drawn in the sand as a boundary starts to retreat further and further back. And you accept more and more crap from others, from the boss, from the client, even from strangers. You give up on your agency because you're somewhere deep inside convinced that being your authentic self will not provide these basic necessities for you. So you mask up and you toughen up. So how can you introduce softness here then? This is survival, right? Well, you can start to question. You can start to get curious, do you really have no choice but to stay late every night at work? Do you really have to take on all of these clients' demands with no compensation? Should you really, or should I really just allow my coworkers to talk to me in any kind of abusive way? Now, the answers may lead to some big shifts, okay? Like considering leaving the job, for example, or starting your own business, or moving back in with your parents, or having housemates. Big shifts can happen from this line of questioning, but it's also what leads you to a choice. To choose whether you want to stay in this tough and rough lifestyle, or to choose betting on yourself or your authentic self and doing something more aligned with who you are and what you need. So really, we have choice in this sort of survival situation where it feels like we actually have no choice and are powerless. We actually do have choice. It's just that choosing something different might lead to big changes in your life. And it's deciding whether or not you're ready for that. And it requires a real letting go, like a real acknowledgement, again, that you're not in as much control as you think you are or you would like to be. But it's that surrender, that trust, that is where the softness begins. So the third way that we harden that I want to talk about today is us wanting to feel accepted, to feel a sense of belonging, to feel like we're part of something. To feel a sense of belonging, though, in a hyper-individualized society like our own is hard. And for many of us, starting at a very young age, we learn that we have to give up parts of ourselves, and we have to compromise on our boundaries to feel that sense of belonging to a group, be it our families, our friends, at school, or otherwise. So that often puts us into people pleasing and saying yes to things that we really don't want to say yes to in order to feel accepted. And that makes life hard. So what we can do to soften here, what can we do? I know you're already saying it. So let's say it together. I know you know what it is, but the B word, yeah, boundaries. Yes, when we take that journey of relearning and re-implementing healthy boundaries that we shed or simply never had, that's how we can reclaim our softness here. And this one has a special place in my heart because it speaks to my own life journey with not having great boundaries and learning from scratch, like what boundaries are and how they work and how to create them for myself in a realistic way, like realistically implementing boundaries, keeping in mind my past tendencies for people pleasing. So for me, this is the number one area to work on in order to have so much more ease and inner peace and softness in your life. So, you know what I did? Over the last year or so, I created a comprehensive course about boundaries, specifically for recovering people pleasers, high achievers, and people who often say yes when they really want to say no. It's an audio course with an accompanying Google Doc workbook, so it's easily implementable. And when you go through each lesson, you'll come away with a deeper understanding of boundaries and an ability to work through the practice with the exercises that I give you to flex your boundaries in all kinds of different ways. I'll go ahead and actually put the link to that course. It's called Boku Boundaries. I'll put the link in the description below. But also, if you don't want to spend money and if you just want to start with one thing, one difficult part of protecting your peace, I got you covered. I got you. Okay. I also have linked below my free checklist of 20 ways to say no. If your boundaries have been weakened over the years and it's hard for you to say no, these are some kind yet firm ways you can say no that don't make you feel guilty or anxious when it's in the moment, when it's time to really say no to protect your peace. So you can also download that checklist for free using the link below in the description. So there you have it, 3 ways we get in that cycle of always being strong and some ways to start to soften as you meet those challenges head on. You know, it's all about finding the spaciousness to make a different choice, to take a different option, to take a new road, to try out another way that leads to softness and actually self-connection. And remembering that you deserve to live a life filled with joy and peace and all the good vibes and all the good things. Look, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Share your takeaways in the comments. And also don't forget to download those 20 ways to say no and or to grab my comprehensive course called Boku Boundaries. They are both linked in the description below. And, you know, let's keep this conversation going there. Until next time, I want you to create a life that is so soft. It feels like sleeping in on a Monday morning wrapped in a cashmere blanket. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. And remember, over here, we are all soft, no fluff. Stay soft, stay joyful, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Soft Girl,